Today, we're jumping into a really fascinating ancient word, metanoia.
Hmm.
It's Greek, right? Comes from meta, meaning beyond or after, and nous for mind.
That's it.
But it sounds like it's much, much more than just, changing your mind about something.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. When we talk metanoia, we're moving way past simple repentance or feeling guilty.
Yeah.
It's deeper.
Deeper how?
Well, think of it as a real transformation of your whole being, like a fundamental turning of the soul.
Okay.
It's like shifting the entire axis your life rotates on. It can be moments of awakening, real expansion, conversion, even a kind of returning.
A return. Interesting.
Yeah, and often it emerges from crisis.
Hmm.
You know, that crisis point that leads, surprisingly, to renewal or surrender that brings freedom. It's that dark journey that eventually leads to light.
Yeah.
Well, it's a lot.
It sounds incredibly powerful, a big concept. So our plan today is to really get into our source material, which looks at metanoia through six archetypal faces, they call them.
Right, different angles on the same core idea.
Exactly. We want to unpack these for you, give you a sort of shortcut to understanding it, and maybe help you see where it might be showing up in your own life. Ready to dive in?
Let's do it.
Okay, then. So the first face we're exploring is metanoia as spiritual awakening. This is described as being mystical or apophatic.
Yes, apophatic.
Yeah.
That really gets to the heart of it. This is where the soul turns towards something that, well, the intellect just can't really grab onto.
Okay.
It involves a kind of surrender of needing certainty and emptying out of concept.
Emptying out.
Yeah. This is actually where the term metanoia has some of its earliest roots, especially in early Christian thought. It wasn't just change your mind. It quickly took on this meaning of a turning of the soul.
Turning away from something?
Turning away from sin, or maybe illusion, and towards bicharising.
Mm-hmm.
Well, towards God or ultimate reality, depending on the tradition.
Mm-hmm.
And the epiphatic thinkers, figures like Meister Eckhart, or the person who wrote The Cloud of Unknowing, they really pushed this.
How so?
They argued the divine or ultimate truth can only be approached by saying what it's not, by letting go of images, ideas, concepts, even the desire to know it fully.
Wow.
Until, as they put it, only the naked soul and dark radiance are left. It's about negation to reach affirmation.
So it's not about learning more, but unlearning or letting go. That feels quite counterintuitive.
It really is for many of us. It's
Yeah.
about creating space within. You know, you can actually see parallels in other traditions too.
Like what?
Well, like Taoist Wu Wei, that idea of effortless action or non-striving, it comes from releasing that tight grip of control.
Okay.
Or Buddhist Sunyata, emptiness,
Right.
which isn't about nothingness, but the reality that's there when we drop our fixed ideas.
Right.
Both kind of point to this aspect of metanoia. Profound change sometimes requires us to stop grasping, to let go of that insistent self.
That's a really interesting distinction. So the invitation here from this face, what is it asking of us?
It's essentially asking you to consider where life feels maybe absurd or uncertain or just beyond your grasp.
And instead of fighting it.
Exactly. Instead of resisting or trying to figure it all out, step into it. Choose to affirm existence as it is right now. Live with, courage and even joy without needing all the guarantees.
Living with courage within uncertainty. Okay,
Yes, sir.
that actually leads quite smoothly into the second phase, doesn't it? Metanoia as an existential shift.
It really does, yeah.
So this is more philosophical, about confronting things like freedom, mortality, the absurd.
Precisely. This angle brings in the existentialist thinkers. It's about that radical shift in perspective that can happen when you really face those fundamental aspects of being human.
And again, it's not about finding an escape hatch.
No, quite the opposite. It's about choosing to embrace the uncertainty, not run from it.
Who are the key figures here?
Well, you've got Kierkegaard and his whole idea of the leap of faith, committing to something beyond what reason can prove.
Right.
Then there's Nietzsche with his really powerful concept of amor fati.
Loving fate.
Loving your fate, yeah. Loving it so completely that everything that happens, good or bad, becomes necessary, even sacred. It's a radical affirmation.
Wow. That's intense.
It is. And then you have someone like Camus thinking about Sisyphus.
The guy rolling the rock uphill forever.
That's him. Camus imagines Sisyphus finding a kind of absurd joy in that endless, meaningless task. He affirms life right there, in the struggle, without needing some ultimate meaning imposed from outside.
So how does metanoia stop this from just becoming despair then, facing all that?
Because it's an active choice. It's the turning. It's choosing to live differently, consciously, within that awareness. It's where you find your freedom ironically, in acknowledging the limits and the uncertainty.
Okay.
And what's really fascinating, as you hinted, is how the core invitation here overlaps so much with the spiritual one.
Yeah.
It's again about choosing courage, choosing joy, even when there are no guarantees. Maybe especially when there are no guarantees.
Yeah.
You make your own meaning.
That's powerful. Okay, so these first two faces, they seem quite focused on perspective, on letting go of certainty.
In different ways, yes. One more towards the mystical unknown, the other towards the existential condition.
Right. Now let's shift gears a bit. We're moving into the psychological realm with the third face, metanoia in Jungian alchemy.
Ah, yes, Jung.
This sounds like it's about breakdown leading to renewal, old ego patterns falling apart.
Exactly. Carl Jung actually used the term metanoia specifically for this.
Hmm.
He saw it as the psyche's own innate, self-correcting tendency, especially during a crisis.
Self-correcting, how does that work?
Well, when the ego's usual story, the way we see ourselves in the world, starts to crumble, maybe through loss or disillusionment or just hitting a wall, the psyche doesn't just collapse, it often pushes towards renewal.
Okay.
And this push often comes through things like powerful dreams, symbols emerging from the unconscious, or maybe engaging in shadow work, confronting the parts of ourselves we usually ignore or repress,
Shadow work, right.
or even sudden bursts of creativity. These are all signals, pointers towards a new kind of integration, a greater wholeness.
So it's a necessary process, even if it feels like falling apart.
That's the key insight from Jung, yes. He often compared it to alchemy.
Alchemy, like turning lead into gold.
Sort of, but psychologically. Think of the Negredo stage in alchemy, the blackening, the dissolution where everything breaks down. It looks like chaos.
Sounds unpleasant.
It often is.
Yeah.
But it's seen as necessary to reach the albedo, the whitening, which signifies purification, a new clarity, a new integrated form emerging from that breakdown.
Okay.
So Jung stressed that this painful process isn't necessarily a sickness, a pathology. It's more like an initiation. The psyche is trying to grow to become more balanced.
That's such a crucial reframing, seeing crisis as initiation, not just damage.
Absolutely.
So how would someone, work with this? What's the invitation?
Well, it invites you to pay attention. Pay attention to your dreams. Notice synchronicities, those meaningful coincidences. Look at the stories your own unconscious seems to be telling you.
And not just dismiss them.
Right. Instead of immediately pathologizing a crisis, view it as potentially an initiatory passage. Ask yourself, what is trying to emerge here? What new thing wants to be born out of this dissolution, this breakdown of the old way?
Asking what's trying to be born. I like that. Okay, from the deep psyche, let's move to creativity. The fourth face. Metanoia as artistic rebirth.
Yes, the poetic metanoia.
This is about the artist hitting a wall, maybe, where old styles just don't work anymore.
Exactly. It's that point of creative rupture where the artist feels compelled to find entirely new forms, new ways of expression. The old way feels dead, exhausted.
And this leads to a transformation in their work.
Profoundly so. You see this all the time with artists. Think of Dante. He had to metaphorically enter that dark wood, a place of confusion, maybe despair, before he could even begin writing the Divine Comedy. That journey was his metanoia.
Okay.
Or think of Rilke's poem, Archaic Torso of Apollo. It describes this encounter with a fragmented statue, but the encounter is so powerful it ends with this sudden, shocking command.
The famous line.
You must change your life. That's metanoia hitting you right between the eyes through art.
Wow. Any other examples?
Oh, many. Think of literary giants like Faulkner or Joyce or Thomas Mann. They all went through these huge stylistic shifts, these metanoias in their writing. They didn't just change their stories, they changed how stories could be told. They broke the old forms.
So for the artist, it's a kind of surrender, too.
Yes, very much so. It's a surrender to the demands of the work itself, the emerging vision. You have to be willing to let the old vessel, your comfortable style or technique, break to allow something new to come through.
It makes sense. Now, this isn't just for Picasso or Joyce, right? How does this apply to maybe our own creativity, even if we aren't capital A artists?
That's a great point. It absolutely applies more broadly.
So the insight is?
The insight is to notice in your own life, maybe in your job, your hobbies, how you communicate when your familiar ways of doing things, your usual modes of expression, start to feel stale or just empty.
And
allow yourself to experiment. Give yourself permission to break the forms you're used to, even if it feels awkward or messy. To just begin again, maybe in a completely different way.
trust the process.
Trust that the creative current, whether in art or life, often needs that phase of destruction, that letting go of the known before real renewal can happen.
Okay. That resonates, right? Let's widen the lens now, quite significantly. Face number 5, ecological metanoia.
Yes, the world's soul shift, as some might call it.
So this is taking metanoia beyond the personal to a planetary scale.
Exactly. It's recognizing that perhaps the most urgent metanoia needed today is a collective one, a fundamental turning in how humanity relates to the Earth.
A turning from what to what?
From seeing the Earth primarily as a resource to be used, dominated, exploited, towards knowing it as kin, as a living community we belong to. A shift from dominion to reciprocity.
That feels huge and timely.
It really does. People like Thomas Berry, the cultural historian, talked about the great work of our time being precisely a planetary conversion of consciousness.
A conversion?
Yeah. And you see echoes of this in, well, many animist traditions, ancient and contemporary. They consistently remind us that rivers, mountains, forests, animals, they aren't just objects, they're subjects, they're relatives, persons in their own right.
So this metanoia involves grief and something else.
Definitely grief. There's an unavoidable grief for what's been broken, what's been lost in our relationship with the planet. But it's also intertwined with a deep sense of belonging or rebelonging, the possibility, the joy, really, of participating in the healing, of remembering ourselves as part of this living world, not separate from it.
Grief and belonging together. That's powerful.
Wow.
So how does this translate into action or an invitation for us?
Well, on a practical level, it invites us to simply step outside with a different kind of attention, with reverence,
Okay.
to consciously try to treat the river, the stone, the bird, not just as scenery, but as companions, as fellow beings. To ask not just, how can I use this,
Right.
but how can I dwell with this?
Shifting the question.
Right. And it means cultivating both that grief for what's damaged and gratitude for what remains, what still flourishes, what's being healed. See them as twin teachers guiding this larger turning.
Twin teachers. Grief and gratitude.
Right.
Beautiful. Okay, we've come to the final phase. Number 6. Homecoming as metanoia.
Yes. And this one offers a slightly different flavor.
How so? It sounds like returning.
Exactly. Sometimes the great transformation isn't about transcending where you are or becoming someone completely new. Sometimes metanoia is more about coming back,
Back to what?
back to yourself,
Yeah.
recovering something essential that was always there but perhaps got buried or lost along the way.
Oh, okay, I see.
Think about all those powerful myths of return. Odysseus finally making it back to Ithaca after all his wanderings,
Right.
or Inanna ascending from the underworld reclaiming her place, or even the prodigal son being welcomed home without judgment.
Yeah, those are powerful stories.
They remind us that transformation isn't always this dramatic leap forward into the unknown. Sometimes it's a gentle but profound return. It's rediscovering the core self that's maybe been hidden under layers of noise, duty, expectations, societal pressures, all that stuff.
So it's like the soul coming home to its own ground.
That's a lovely way to put it, yes. A homecoming of the soul to its own inherent nature, its own truth.
That's actually quite comforting, isn't it? The idea that maybe what we're searching for isn't out there somewhere else, but already here within us.
It can be, yes, a different kind of relief.
So what's the invitation with this final phase? How do we practice this kind of homecoming?
The invitation here is really one of remembrance. Consciously recall the practices or the places or maybe the simple joys that once made you feel truly whole, truly yourself.
Things from the past.
Perhaps. Things that genuinely anchored you to your authentic self before maybe life got complicated. And the invitation is to return to them.
But not as escapism.
No, not as a way to escape the present, but as an act of remembering. Of remembering putting the pieces of yourself back together.
Ah, remembering. Nice.
Yeah. And trust. Trust that maybe the very thing you feel you're seeking, that deeper connection or sense of wholeness you long for, might actually already be living quietly inside you. Just waiting to be noticed again, to be welcomed home.
Waiting to be rediscovered. Okay, wow, that's quite a journey through those 6 phases.
It really covers a lot of ground, doesn't it? But as we've kind of touched on throughout, it's important to see they aren't really separate boxes.
Right, you said they overlap.
Exactly. Our source material describes them beautifully as 6 faces of one turning. The mystical, the existential, the psychological, the creative, the ecological, and that sense of homecoming.
They all feed into each other.
They intertwine, they flow together. You know, a person's life might sort of dance between them. You might feel the pull of one face more strongly in one season of life and another face in a different season, depending on what you're going through, what you need.
That makes a lot of sense. It's not a linear path.
Not at all. More like different facets of the same jewel, reflecting the light differently.
That's a great way to synthesize it. So, this whole deep dive into metanoia, it really comes down to understanding this incredible, maybe inherent capacity we have that the soul has to shift,
Mm,
to let old forms dissolve, sometimes painfully, and then reform into something new, or, as we just heard, to rediscover something timeless within ourselves.
precisely. It's about the dynamics of transformation itself.
Yeah. It's a good reminder that change, real change, isn't usually just one big event, but more of a continuous unfolding, a journey.
Definitely.
So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. As you go about your week, perhaps just gently consider in what ways, maybe small ways, maybe subtle ways, might metanoia be inviting you right now,
Hmm.
inviting you to turn towards something, or to expand your view, or maybe to surrender an old pattern, or perhaps simply to come home to yourself. Just something to reflect on these timeless movements of, well, descent, surrender, and renewal in your own life.